Okay, so let's start with the bad news. Google ad costs are rising. They have been since I first started running Google ads way back in 2009, and the cost of Google ads is going to continue to increase over time. Now, does that mean you should run away from the platform? Absolutely not. Why? Because all profitable forms of advertising are going to get more expensive over time. That's just something you have to accept and live with if you want to use ads to get customers. And there is one solution that, if you do it properly, means you will never have to worry about rising advertising costs ever again. And I'm going to explain that in this video. So this might sound like a really obvious question, but why would someone be worried about rising Google ad costs in the first place? Well, they'd probably say it's because I don't want my cost per lead to go up, I don't want my cost per sale to go up. If they do, my ad campaigns won't be profitable or won't be as profitable. So that's obviously not something that I want as a Google advertiser. And as correct as that is, and as sensible as that sounds, there is a bit of a problem in that logic. And I'm going to pick through that and explain what I'm talking about. It's going to sound a bit confusing at first, but just stay with me on this one. Most Google advertisers are looking at their ad results and they're thinking, how much did it cost me to acquire a customer? And they're comparing, what did I make from that customer? And they want the discrepancy between the two to be as large as possible, right? You want to acquire customers for as little as possible and make as much money as possible from that customer. But one of the biggest problems with that approach is that most companies, most businesses running ads on Google will look at what they paid to get the customer versus what they got in on their first transaction, on their initial transaction. So it cost me $20 cost per sale. Our average transaction value, average order value is $80. We've got a 4x return on ad spend. That's great, but if the cost of Google ads double, that's nowhere near as good. We're in trouble. We won't be able to scale, won't be able to do all the things we want, acquire new customers, etc., etc. Now, for some companies, that's an appropriate way of looking at things. If you are very much one-time purchase heavy, you don't have a chance of converting a single transaction into multiple purchases. There are still things I will mention around that, because I think that's either a bad way of looking at things, you need to change your structure, or find ways around it, both of which you can do, and I'll explain. But for the vast majority of businesses, that's not true. That's not the case. You are not in a situation where people just buy from you once. So what I would very much encourage Google advertisers to do is take a look at the lifetime value of a customer, compare that to your initial cost to acquire a customer. And then when you do that, the answers to how do I get more customers, how do I grow my business, everything becomes easier and a lot clearer of what you should do and how you should get there. So I'm going to give you an extreme example. I've got the details written down. So let's use McDonald's, right? So their average order value, someone goes into McDonald's, orders a burger, fries, maybe a drink, whatever. On average is about $9. That's how much someone spends in one go. But the lifetime value of a McDonald's customer is more than $5,000. Okay, so if you compare those two numbers, let's imagine you're planning your marketing, you're talking with someone like me, maybe work with an agency, and they're saying, right, what can we afford to pay to acquire a customer? And you're saying, well, every time we get a sale, it's like $9. So maximum we can afford to pay in Google ad cost to acquire a customer is, say, $3. A 3x return on ad spend is something that someone might say. Well, in that scenario, that basically means that any form of online advertising is off the table, because there's no way you're going to be able to acquire customers for $3 each at scale. That's just unrealistic. But if you take the other number and say, our customers aren't worth $9, they're worth more than $5,000, what would you then be willing to pay to acquire a $5,000 customer? Well, a lot more than $3, 10 times, easy, probably 100 times, 300. Would you be willing to pay $300 to get a $5,000 customer? Most businesses would. And in that scenario, you can pay 100 times as much to acquire that initial customer. So when you are a business that can turn one-time purchases into many, many purchases over time, you make a lot more money from your customers than your competition do, who aren't doing that. And that means you can afford to pay so much more in advertising costs to acquire customers that not only does it make your business that much more profitable, not only does it allow you to scale that much more, but it also means you become immune to rising ad costs. I mean, imagine that scenario. McDonald's can pay $300 to acquire a new customer. Can they afford to advertise? Absolutely. How much does it cost to get someone in, first time McDonald's? Like, it's a big brand. People go to McDonald's anyway, so there's different. But the logic applies. There'd be lots of businesses that are currently acquiring customers for $30 each. That if you said, you know what, if you convert these customers into customers that come back and again and keep giving you money, you can pay 10 times this to acquire a new customer and it still be really profitable. Imagine there'd be lots of people watching this video thinking, if I could actually pay 10 times to acquire customers, I don't need to worry about rising Google ad costs. I'm fine. I can just go ahead and run with that and it'd be really, really easy. Now, all this relies on your ability as a business to convert one-time purchases, one-time customers into people that buy from you again and again and again. And in a second, I'm going to go through some options of how you can go about doing that, some really important things that could be complete game changers, allow you to spend so much more on your Google ads, acquire so many more customers, and build a much larger, more successful business. Before I do that, I want to quickly let you know about our done-for-you Google Ads services. So my company can create, manage, optimize your Google ads. We can take that workload off your hands if you're doing it yourself, or take it off another agency that might not be producing the best results for you, and will almost certainly help you get much better results. We've spent tens of millions on the platform. We've worked with thousands of businesses over a decade, very much know what we're doing. So yeah, if that sounds interesting, sounds like something you want to explore, you can click on the link in the video description below, come through to a page on our website and book in a free call with one of my team members to find out more about how we might be able to help, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. So if the lesson here is that you need to find a way to get your customers to buy from you again and again and again, and by the way, think about all the biggest companies in the world, they absolutely all have that. You know, even companies like Google and Meta, their customers are advertisers that buy from them again and again and again, right? And then other examples like Apple, obviously people buy Apple products and they buy things from the App Store all the time. And all the largest companies have this structure where they can turn one purchase into many purchases. So how do you go about doing that within your business realistically? What are some tactics you can use? Well, firstly, if you just offer the one thing, change that. Offer other complementary things so that you can reactivate existing customers. Really, really important. There are some ways, even within just offering the one thing, that you can look to make more revenue out of people over the long term. So it might be an extended warranty package, it might be insurance on the one thing that they've bought or the thing that you've installed for them if you're like a service provider, some sort of guarantee, some sort of retainer after the fact to keep it going or to keep someone refreshed on, their whatever it is that you did for them in the first place. Lots of ways that you can add multiple purchases or multiple ways of getting money in, even if you just offer the one thing. But like I said, first point is change it. Make sure you offer multiple things. Another great way is to add a subscription element to your business. And this whole game of let's increase the customer LTV, the lifetime value, as much as possible, is why so many businesses over the last few years, the last decade or so, have become subscription businesses. Things that never used to have been. So yes, we all expected phone and TV to be subscriptions. They always were. But think about things like HelloFresh. Like the food that you cook and eat in your own home yourself is now a subscription, whereas it never used to be. Your car, if you've got like a newer car that has automatic downloads and updates, these are things that you pay for, right? So there's all sorts of things that never used to be subscriptions that are becoming subscriptions. I can think of others. Flower subscriptions, for example. You don't just go to the flower shop and buy flowers. You can now get them delivered on a monthly basis. And it's all about increasing the lifetime customer value, because inertia is a real thing. People are less likely to cancel a subscription than they are to reorder again. So if someone's just automatically paying monthly, they are more likely to keep doing so. That increases customer LTV. That allows that company to be more aggressive on the front end when it comes to acquiring new customers, which, as we talked about, is a big deal, right? Loyalty programs. Buy 5 cups of coffee, get the 6th one free. These are things that keep a customer coming back to your business as opposed to using other businesses. There's also that nice exchange of every now and then they feel like they get a free thing, or they get a big discount, or they get some sort of reward for being loyal, for continuing to work with you. You don't need to be a big business to do this. Obviously, all the big businesses have these, grocery stores have got point systems, and airlines have got point systems and miles and things like that. But your little local coffee shop, so I gave the coffee example, can do this sort of thing. Lots of local businesses can do this sort of thing. You can be a small business and benefit from this as well. And then the most obvious one that often isn't actually thought about is just make your thing better. Make whatever it is you sell as good as it can possibly be. Because if you serve the best food in town, people are going to come back and eat at your restaurant. If you help save all your customers an enormous amount of money on their taxes, they're going to keep working with you. They're going to tell other people about you. They're going to want to do it. So the thing that you sell being as good as it can possibly be is a core part of your marketing. It's not often seen that way. Seth Godin's talked about this for a long time, but it absolutely is. Because if you can retain customers you acquire, maybe make your thing so good that they feel compelled to tell other people about it, they're like, oh, you have to go and buy one of these things, it's fantastic. You have to go eat there, you have to go experience this. Then you get so much more leverage on your initial ad spend. Not only acquiring that customer and getting that transaction, you're getting the future transactions, you're getting the people they refer, and things like that. And realistically, making your thing so good that people never stop by it is the only way to never have to worry about rising ad costs again. Because if you make so much more money than everyone else, you'd always be able to afford to pay significantly more than them to acquire customers. In my experience, business owners are much more likely to be obsessed with customer acquisition costs. They'd be better served being obsessed with customer retention. That's absolutely the case for us as an agency. We are much more concerned about keeping clients and reducing our churn to as small as it can possibly be, as opposed to getting as many in through the door. And all the subscription businesses, SaaS businesses that operate at large scale, they absolutely have that mindset. And often it's a lot easier to do that. It can be really difficult. If you've been running Google Ads for a while and you've got a really optimized Google ad campaign and you've got a $25 cost per purchase, for example, getting that down from $25 to $20 can be really hard to do if you've already done a lot of the optimization steps, you've been through my videos, you know what you're doing, etc., etc. But that same business might have an average customer lifetime value of $100. Well, imagine if you could increase that to 150 or 200. That's often much, much easier to do. Upsells, cross-sells, make your thing a little bit better so people come back. Email marketing campaigns to keep in touch. That's often so much easier to do to increase that. And actually, if you look at those two numbers, would you rather decrease your CAC, your cost to acquire a customer, by $5, or would you rather increase what you make from each customer by $50? Almost certainly that would be the better option. If you're banging your head up against the wall, how do I get these ads cheaper? How do I get these ads cheaper? Well, actually, maybe you just don't need to, just increase your customer values. And if you're in that scenario, let's say you do fight your way through and you get that $25 cost per purchase down to $20, what do you do if in 2 years' time, the average cost of Google advertising is now 20-25% more expensive? You're back to where you started. So another thing to definitely think about. Really, really important. I know I'm hammering this point home, but I really want to get this across, that this is the key to so many businesses being able to unlock the scale that they want on their front-end marketing. And the thing is, if your stuff is so good that people never stop buying it and they feel compelled to tell other people about it, you can either reach a point where you don't need to advertise anymore because you've spent that initially, you've got the customer base that's sticking around, they themselves are building you a larger customer base, and you don't need to advertise. A classic example would be Five Guys, right? So Five Guys famously don't have a marketing budget anymore, right? They have their locations and they just try and deliver really good burgers at a really good price, nice and convenient, and allow other people to recommend and keep coming back. And that's their strategy, right? So that is absolutely possible, provided your thing is good enough. So this technique of really obsessing over LTV might sound like it has nothing to do with Google Ads, but it actually has everything to do with Google Ads, because if you get this right and you really do increase your customer LTV, it's what allows you to play Google Ads on easy mode. And entrepreneurs are typically very hardworking, but if we can find a way to do something on easy mode and it still be really effective, maybe even be more effective, then we should. You can always go hard when things are easy and just get outsized results and returns. So hopefully that message has been received loud and clear. And now I do want to quickly mention something that is more tactical and is more specific to Google Ads and the Google Ads platform. And you can check it out in this video here, because there are tactical steps that you can take to reduce your cost per click. If you pay less in terms of cost per click, you are likely to get a better overall return on ad spend, and you want to be doing that alongside working on increasing your LTV. If you do both, that's where the best results come from. So go ahead and check this out.